Cool. So we're about to release a new song.
Finally.
Our
It's
first
finally coming.
co-release. Well, no, this is technically our second because we wrote and
Dig
released
Deep.
Dig Deep back in 2000.
2016. No.
No, it wasn't. It was 2020.
2020, yes.
Yeah.
We're old. We're old.
No, we're experienced. We've been doing this rap thing since I was. What is it? I've been living this rap game since I was 20 years old. Snoop Dogg? No? Okay. Anyways.
She's a world creature, y'all.
I'm trying.
Oh my gosh. But yes, this is a momentous time for both of us because while yes, we did co-write a song together during a time in COVID, this one carries, I think, for both of us a lot more weight from a personal standpoint and a mental health standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think we should let people know kind of
how
this came to be.
Yeah. So I mean, Worthy of Love actually didn't start as a song called Worthy of Love.
Mm-hmm.
It was called Worthy. And do you remember, what was it, 2020? Well, obviously the pandemic rendered everybody with a lot of free time on their hands. Right?
Exactly, yep.
And so that was when I started my Write a Song a Day challenges that I'd set for myself. And it was during my second one in 2023, beginning of 2023, that I decided to write a song a day for 30 days straight. And Worthy came up for me, but it was a very different song.
Mm-hmm.
I was coming to terms with, on a personal level, like coming to terms with this idea of breaking up with my previous self and learning to feel safe in a healthy relationship and learning to feel safe in love and learning to feel safe to be me. Obviously, this was before we got engaged.
Right.
Before my husband. But my husband proposed to me in February, and I did this Write a Song a Day challenge in January.
Right.
But yeah, so Worthy kind of was me kind of breaking up with my previous self to become a next version of myself. But then you came along and were like, let's write a song together. And I was like, this is from my perspective, but this was the song I wanted to write, but it wasn't finished.
Right, and that's something we had talked about for a while. I think we had always talked about for years, as long as we've known each other, like us actually getting together and crafting a song. And kind of similar experience to you. During COVID, I kind of gave myself this space where I wanted to wake up naturally, because obviously we didn't have anything else to do. And so, one of the first things I would do in the first 10 minutes that I was awake is I would write. Whatever.
Really?
Yeah, I did that. And
that's your first thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning.
Good habit.
And but it was because it was just one of these things where, okay, I didn't have anything to do. It was between that and I was doing like a whole Bible plan. I was reading the whole Bible in a year. So I would get up and I would walk and I would do try to get 10,000 steps by noon. So I was doing a lot of stuff just for me and my personal self and my personal journey. But I knew for me, if I wanted to evolve as a songwriter, I had to get in the space of constantly writing. And constantly writing based on feel. Like just, I still remember I had a moment where I woke up one morning and the sun just happened to hit me at the right space and the right time through the blinds. And I happened to look over and I said, what would I write if I had the future love of my life just laying next to me asleep, right? And so again, these ideas just started coming up and I wanted to get in a groove of writing for other people. So, there were a lot of things that were birthed from that. And so when it came to your song, it was really just me adding to what you had already, the foundation you had already created. And so when we talked about what it meant in that time for me, when we wrote that song, I was just coming out of a period where I had attempted to take my own life. I had dealt with a lot of self-worth, struggles and challenges, wondering where I am, who am I in this time, who am I supposed to be, and am I worthy of the things that I have worked so hard to attain. So we were both kind of facing demons head on when we came into that process together. So it really allowed us to kind of feed off of each other naturally, and really where you had most of it mapped out, and really I just kind of added a couple of hooks and a verse.
No, you added some depth, like, because you talk about the suicidality, you talk about the depression, you talk about that really questioning of self-worth. One of the things that I learned from a professor at Berkeley was that a really well-written song can be performed in a multitude of different styles. Absolutely. Right? Mm-hmm. But I like to think metaphorically, and so I also took that to mean a well-written song can be attributed to many different experiences and many different, many different types of life, And so when I first wrote the song, because it was largely around sexual assault for me.
Right, exactly.
Right, it was largely around being abused by family members, by being abused by ex-partners, obviously.
Right.
But it's and finding like what does it mean when it's so easy to tie our identities to our victimhood.
Yeah, and that's a strong point, and based like building on that, I took that sensitivity into heart when we were writing together, because while I may not know exactly where you were in that time, in that frame of mind,
thank goodness,
there are but there are a lot of similarities in terms of the experiences that I knew that we could put our minds together and really write something that still had meaning, but then I could look at it and say, you can relate it to so many different challenges. It wasn't just based on your experience or my experience. It was something that I feel like anybody that listens to this record can draw it to a time in their lives where they've questioned that worth in themselves. And I think for you and I, who are both empaths in that way and really are leaning into how can we love ourselves better, but then how can we also love the people in our lives better and show people that, hey, we support you no matter what it is that you're going through. This was just another example of how we could take two very messy, traumatic experiences and make them turn it around into something beautiful.
Yeah. And I think that's a really great point, because I think that's the role of an artist is, I joke around about this all the time. In fact, I just got back from Iowa, and my cousin's sons, I come to find they're 13 years old, and they're like, Emma, you take this shit and you turn it into a garden. And I was like, wait a minute. And they're like, they've been watching me on TikTok. And my cousin's like, what are they talking about? I was like, we take this shit, turn it into fertilizer and use it to plant our garden.
Yeah.
But that's the role, I think, as artists, as artists who so strongly align ourselves with music with a message.
Yes, absolutely.
That we take the trauma, we take the adversity, we take the negative thoughts and feelings and try to reshift them and focus on how we can grow through them, how we can get stronger because of them. If you stay doing 10-pound curls your entire life, you're not going to get stronger. You need to get through that. You'll get more toned. Right. So it's about, that perspective shift. And I think, one of the beautiful things about co-writing it with you was because it helped me kind of step outside my tunnel vision.
Likewise.
And really focus on the holistic experience of what it means to come out of the muck.
Well, one question I do want to ask, because you brought up songwriting, which, I mean, we've been talking about it the whole time, but I'm curious what that experience was like for you.
Uncomfortable as fuck.
I know, right? Because for us, especially for collaborators, that's one thing I've always been intrigued by, because obviously we all have our way of how we write songs, whether that's the foundation of the song. If we have, sometimes we're so used to writing things in a certain tempo and a certain cadence. I'm just curious, like, what your experience was with our songwriting process, and not saying like, yeah, beat me down, tell me all the things we did wrong. No. But it's just, what is that like for you when you go in and collaborate with other artists?
So it's interesting because I used to be in a hard rock band, right, back in New Zealand, Static Era, and we co-wrote a lot. I co-wrote a lot with my then guitarist and now one of my best friends to this day, Chris Young. We co-wrote a lot, but it was super uncomfortable. The only reason why I trusted that process was because Chris and I were so close. Right? But I often used to joke that, writing a song with a person is like having a relationship, like an intimate relationship with that person, because you are bearing all of you.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the only way you're going to get the best song, is being vulnerable.
Right.
And to your point, so when it came to songwriting for me, when we first start writing our own stuff, I think sometimes we hold on to it so tightly because it's ours and it carries so much vulnerability and so much weight. And as I've evolved over time, I always think back to my college days. So, I'm a theater major, so I started out in acting before music became a thing.
You're theatrical?
What? I'm theatrical. What? So back in Virginia Tech, my design lab professor, Randy Ward, one of the greatest lessons that he taught us, and I'm sure that he taught many people over the, almost half a century that he was teaching, was he took a piece of paper and he drew this amazing set for just a random play, and then once he finished, he immediately crumbled it up and shredded it and threw it in the trash and just laughed at us. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned in terms of songwriting, is you have to be okay with an idea not working. And to be able to move through the idea and not say that it didn't work because the idea was bad. It's more like, what is the song telling you that you need to do versus what I want?
Right. So, like removing ego and embracing
exactly. And so when I think it was a great exercise for me as a songwriter working with you, because I know your history. I know the type of songs you write. And so seeing coming into it with you already having the main idea in mind, and then also kind of seeing based on how I write and knowing, okay, if I were doing this, I know how I want this to work, but then understanding, hey, okay, that idea is not working, throw it out. And it's not a bad idea, it just doesn't work for this.
Yeah.
And so, understanding, I wanted you to kind of take the lead because it was a song that you had already built and it was something that really meant something deeply to you. But I also knew you were also open to letting it reshape in some kind of ways. So that to me was kind of how I wanted to do the process. And so I also think back to one of our mutual friends, Stephanie Matthias, when her and we wrote Starting Over.
Yeah.
That was a song I had originally written for her based on the miscarriage that she had. And she was very vocal about that. And that was one of the things that enabled me to want to write it, because she had been so open about a situation that was so traumatic for her. But then I just wrote these lyrics out and I said, hey, I wrote this for you.
Right.
Whatever you want to do with it, you just let me know. And she said, no, we should work on this together. And it just became this process, but I let her primarily take the lead in terms of the songwriting, and then I just kind of, filled the gaps with the musical side of it in terms of the harmonies and some of the tempo. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like we give so much of ourselves, but at the same time we also kind of have to surrender ourselves a little bit.
As you're talking about your collaboration with Stephanie, it feeds so much into, you're sort of reminding me so much of, that's kind of how I approach a lot of the work that I do with my clients,
Mm-hmm.
The songwriting empowerment clients. Because, I never write for them. It's always them, from them.
Right.
But I always say, tell people that I'm like the Yoda, the kind of helping support their stories,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I the reason I'm bringing that up, because as their Yoda, I want to be able to help them put into words what they're feeling and thinking and going through. But working with you on this song really kind of put the shoe on the other foot,
Mm-hmm.
because for the first time I had somebody else supporting me in what I was so awkwardly trying to verbalize and talk about, and and I've never really had an issue talking about the crappy things that have happened in my life,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's, the more we speak about taboo subjects, the less taboo they have on us, and the less control they have over us. Therefore, we're able to move through, fight back, evolve, and grow from that experience. But I never really allowed, since Static Era, someone else to be that guide for me. And so it was really nice for me in that way. Thankfully, I trust you,
Mm-hmm.
but it was really nice for me to be able to trust somebody and to help in that way.
And that's one of the things that I'm always so in awe sometimes when I see not just indie artists, but even mainstream artists that are able to write such vulnerable things, sometimes with a writing team that they're not as familiar with. And a lot of times now, obviously, the more you grow in this industry, you're around people that you trust, and you're around the teams that you hope, right? And the people that the people that you know are going to make a record potentially a hit, because you know that they're just as involved in the process at that time as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And then also because you've all done the work together, you have the history together. So I think for those of us who are songwriters, that's always been one of the things that I cherish, because there's so many people from the outside that will say to you, well, why are you writing about that? Oh, that's so personal. Or, why are you putting all your business out there? But like you said, it shows that thing that stretched you, that challenged you, doesn't hold power over you. And that's why you want to talk about it the way that you are, through music, and understanding that when we write it, it's for us, but then when we release it, it's for somebody else.
That part. So going back to my point about the taboo, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we keep things hidden, when we keep ourselves silenced by trauma,
mm-hmm.
which so often happens. I've talked about this multiple times, but we all know that 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted. 1 in 12 men are also sexually assaulted every year, and we don't talk about it. But the more we allow ourselves to talk about these things and help people feel more seen and heard and validated, the more we're given permission for other people to heal in the same way.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I remember distinctly performing alongside a number of other artists, I think with the Songwriters Association of Washington, several years back, and I performed my song Barbed Wire, which is a song about my 15th birthday, when my uncle decided to show me what it was like to be a woman. And we talk about that in Worthy of Love.
Yes, which I do want to talk about.
Right.
The creativity of how we explain that.
But when I wrote the song Barbed Wire, which is about feeling caged, feeling like I couldn't fly, I was rendered numb in so many ways. But I performed this song at this showcase, and not even 30 seconds after stepping off the stage, a woman approached me who was a sex trafficking survivor.
Mm-hmm.
As in, she had been through some of the most traumatic experiences. And for the first time, this is her words, not mine, for the first time, she felt validated by an artist. And that meant the absolute world to me. You know, we need to be able to have these conversations. We need to be able to be brave enough to speak up. But unless artists like, you know, like you, and hopefully me, can speak up about them, we just continue down the trajectory of out of sight, out of mind.
Music saves lives.
I hope
Plain
so.
and simple.
It
does. Yeah, you did. You did. Music saves lives.
Yeah.
Mental health sounds like this.
Amen.
Plug. Music saves lives, though, and it's not just our lives that they save. Because when you are creative, there's only so many ways that we can fill outlets that truly give us life. You know, it's whether you're an athlete, whether you're an actor or a singer, you're a painter. There's something, or a fashion designer, whatever that is. Every stroke of the pen, every line, every curve, every note, every chord, it does something to us. That is an emotion that somebody is letting out based on what has happened to them in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's like every time you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Ross.
I mean, the art. I just
yes,
know that he's
painter,
an artist
yes.
from the meme, but
I
grew
those
up in
of
another
you who follow
country.
Emma,
Okay,
she's from New Zealand.
listen, don't be judging.
Bob Ross, for everybody who knows who Bob Ross is, if this is something my family growing up, we used to watch Bob Ross on Saturday mornings.
We'll just paint.
He put paints an image in that
That
hour.
was the whole show.
That's the whole show.
Interesting.
But the beauty of Bob Ross, and what I'm getting to, and my point is, with every stroke of the pen, he's just having a conversation, but he's talking about the beauty that's in the image, but also the beauty that's in our own lives. I think that's why a lot of people gravitated to Bob Ross, because, I mean, you can watch anybody paint a painting. You can watch anybody draw the outdoors, but how is the emotion really tied in, right? And I mean, it was down to every color he chose.
Right.
You see him just pick out these colors and how he mixes it together, and even the way he described the colors and the mixing and all this stuff, it's a beautiful thing to behold. So imagine if even somebody like him had taken what somebody said, like, well, why are you even doing that? What is it? Where is that going to get you? You know,
as in everybody was trying to yuck his yum.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I don't have time for that. I've never had time for that, and I think that the mere fact that people like that exist are evidence of why it's so much more important for us to do the work. Yes. Because, you know, hurt people, right?
Yes.
And so when people feel like they have to yuck other people's yums, it's often a reflection of the fact that they themselves are hurting. Mm-hmm. And as artists, it's kind of our responsibility. Maybe not everybody takes this to heart, but I certainly do. It's our responsibility to extend that olive branch through the music that we make. Absolutely. To help them feel more seen and less angry.
And the important thing too is not to just impose our meaning of the song onto the listeners.
Of course.
I really love what Trent Reznor from Nine Inch Nails said when he wrote the song "Hurt." right? Well, it's Johnny
which was
Cash.
covered by Johnny Cash.
Just Johnny Cash. Well, Johnny Cash covered it. Yes,
It was a cover from Johnny Cash.
Yes.
Great cover.
Yes.
But Nine Inch Nails did the original.
Yes.
I love that you know that.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Just like we know that Stevie Wonder covered Will Smith "Wild Wild West." Done.
Boy.
Somebody would. But the thing that Trent said that I loved is that he wrote the song and somebody asked him along the lines of what did the song mean or what was his interpretation of the song, and a lot of times he would just say to them, it's not for me to explain to you what the song means. It's for you to determine what the song means to you. There's so many times we can say all we want, like what the song, or what you're trying to convey, or what point you want to get across. But somebody's going to have a different reaction to this. That's why I love this so much, because we address so many themes and so many circumstances in our song without saying this is the main thing you need to think about.
Yeah.
Right? It's the words kind of give us the meaning for whoever it's intended for. For
sure. I want to circle back to Hurt for a minute, because I love that song, and I've always loved that song. I was with I had a boyfriend back when I was a teenager. We were together for 2.5 years, and I think that song and Pink Floyd were the best things I got from that relationship. But
thank you for music.
But what not everybody here in the United States knows is I actually started teaching when I was 17. I graduated high school a year early and got my teaching certification. And while I was getting that certification, my then vocal coach gave me her waiting list of vocal students and said, "You've graduated my program, go forth and teach." And so I ended up teaching.
Learn new things about him every day.
Listen,
Didn't know that at all.
So I've been teaching for 20 years now.
Oh my gosh.
But
what?
I know, right? My students tell me that I look 23. I'm so happy about that. But I remember so I was teaching privately, and then that led me to teaching adult education vocal classes at a high school. Mm-hmm. And one of the songs that I taught was Hurt. Now, to me, Hurt has always been one of those haunting songs about breaking up with your previous self in order to become the next version of yourself, right? That's it's painful, because breaking up with previous versions of oneself is hard.
Right.
But then, you never know what's going to happen next. Of course, Johnny Cash released the song just before he passed away. Mm. But two women in that particular intake were really upset with me performing that, or teaching them that song, because they thought it was about suicide.
Right, exactly.
And
that's the whole takeaway.
Right. And so it's about, and it might have been about suicide. That might have been the intention of the song. But it's always really interesting to me, to your point, that we as listeners, as consumers, will always invest our own lived experiences into every artistic thing that we consume. And so that's why I really enjoyed writing this song with you, because with every input that you made, it helped me expand my tunnel vision a little bit. Mm-hmm. And be like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Mm-hmm. Or I didn't even it didn't even cross my mind that self-love and self-worth could be about X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And as songwriters, we're meeting people in the moment.
Yeah.
When people press play, they're coming into it with a different mindset. They're coming into it with a different experience. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's one of those things, like, I wake up at a different time every day, but it was natural, and I would just feel where I was in that particular moment, in that particular space. And it didn't mean that I was going to wake up and feel the exact same way tomorrow. I could have done everything exactly by the book and then wake up tomorrow same time, and it's not going to be the same, because of course it could be raining tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? We could be in the middle of a blizzard. Somebody yelled at us. Somebody said they didn't love us anymore. Your favorite thing in your house broke. Like, there's so many things that can happen over the course of a day to day, that when this musical experience drops, somebody's going to encounter that in a completely different way. And I tell you, whether we put this song out a month from now, a year from now, it's going to have a different...
It's happening in a month and a half.
Yes, it is happening. But
20th
it is happening.
February. Okay.
But if it were to come out at a different time, people would feel it in a different way.
Of course.
I think that's the beauty of songs, and even the songs we listen to, that we've listened to our entire lives. It takes us back to a place.
That part.
But then also, I can still listen to a song that I loved 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and now think about where I am in the current state and time, and it carries a new meaning. But I still remember, that 10-year-old boy that was just like, had the Walkman and the headphones, like, listening to this experience that I was way too young to understand.
Yeah.
But it still did something for me, right? And now as an adult, I can relate it in a whole different way. I think that's just the beauty of, the things that we have the capacity to create.
Yeah.
And I think it should inspire us as writers to keep writing.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I want to talk about this, when we talk about the recording process. That was hard for me. Like, that was extremely difficult, but it served the song in such a beautiful way. Before
we get into the recording stuff, you just reminded me of something I talked to DCTV about yesterday. When it comes to, like, you were talking about the songs that you listened to as a younger person. I apologize. Still young.
Younger person, that's fine.
As a younger person.
That's why you think I got this hat on. There's some gray speaking out. I done lived some stuff. I'm happy about that.
I've lived stuff and I don't have any grays. What are you talking about?
Okay, well, you know.
Anyways, so I was talking to DCTV yesterday, and we were talking about, like, the plethora of music that I've written over my lifetime, right? Mm-hmm. I've been writing since I was 4 years old, and I have damn near every single one of those songs written down somewhere. Close to, well, I think I've definitely peaked over 1,000 now, but yes, when we listen to other people's music, it kind of gives us a time to kind of reflect and sit and remember back to when. But I've found it really interesting, when most people talk about how, if our lives are like a book, make every chapter count, make every page count, blah, blah, blah. For me, our life is like an album. Every chapter is represented by a song or five, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so as I go through the collection of music that I've written over the years of my life, I'm not just catapulted back to that time, but I'm also feeling, I often feel like I still relate to it, or I relate to it in a different way, or I'm learning that lesson in a different perspective. It's really interesting. And so I'm like, as much as we wrote this song in 2 years ago, I'm excited to realize how the song is serving me now and how it's going to serve me in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
And, as we evolve and as we continue to recognize all of the ways in which we are worthy of love, whether that's socially loved, emotionally loved, spiritually loved, physically loved in our bodies, being aware of what does self-love look like in health? What does, you know, what is my physique? The fact that I have two working legs, two working arms, like all of these things that make us whole.
Your future self will thank you for what you do.
I hope
the
so.
songs you write now. And I say that because when I think about everything that I've been through the past 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
I listened to a lot of the songs I wrote back then, and I didn't realize that I was writing it for my future self.
Oh,
Like
that's true.
when I listen to a lot of the songs that I wrote, like that I released, you know, from 2020 to 2023.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I'm writing the songs, right? But it's and I love them when I put them out, but when I listen to them now, especially with the things I'm going through, it was just like, wow, okay, somehow, some way, like it was meant for me now, and it'll be meant for me later, right? It's beautiful how, you know, what the things we create can do for us, not just in the moment that we put it out and then be like, yay, the thing is out and it's done now.
Yeah.
And then we put it by the wayside because now we're waiting for the next thing to write. But then, you know, we take a beat and go listen to it and just see what it does for us in the time that we're currently in. It's a beautiful thing. It's just, you know, I really appreciate, even with this song, like going back and listening to it now, where, you know, again, just thinking about who I was in that time, what I was going into, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I literally just put together the fact that, like, a month after we recorded it, I got engaged. Well, a month after I wrote it, sorry, I got engaged. Like, and then, you know, when we recorded it, was,
yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen.
It's the circle. The circle of life? Okay.
Yes, the circle of life.
So let's talk about the recording process.
Penguins on the bottoms. Pink pajamas. Okay, sorry.
Pink pajamas, penguins on the bottoms?
Yeah. Oh, Emma.
What?
There's a sub episode that will come about. It's just gonna call.
Are you mocking my favorite album in the entire?
It's just gonna be called. It's just gonna be called Emma's from New Zealand.
No, it's gonna be called Emma's been watching The Lion King for years.
Okay, you've been watching The Lion King for years, and no one ever gave you the joke and about pink pajamas, penguins on the bottoms.
So, listen, real talk. Since you brought this up. Remember that film came out when I was a little child, okay?
Yes, when I was 8. 1995.
Right. So you were 8? I was 7. Are you older than me?
Something else we discovered today.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, anyways.
Okay.
Ain't no shame in that game. So, that movie came out in 95.
Mm-hmm.
I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I hit puberty. And that's when all my complications with my shunt happened. So 2 years later, like when that movie came out, I watched it so often I could word for word,
song for song,
speak everything, right? Then I got hospitalized for 5.5 weeks around my, just after my 9th birthday, and I developed meningitis through one of those operations. So I developed severe brain trauma and lost a lot of my executive function. Had to remember basic math, had to remember I went from being called the human dictionary to being like, I couldn't remember.
Like now I need to open up a dictionary and relearn these words.
Right.
Yeah.
And yet, that movie, I could still remember line for line, song by song.
Core memory.
That is the impact of music on our brains.
Yes.
I swear to God.
Come on.
Right.
I preach.
So I'm just saying, don't mock Lion King, okay?
I'm not mocking Lion King. Everybody who
I take this personally.
All right. If you have heard Pink Pajamas, Penguins on the Bottoms, comment on the video. Comment and say yes.
And tell Jarreau how wrong he is.
I know that's not what it is. Duh. Help me out, people. Somebody sang that to you, even if I sang it to you because you heard me sing it. Just right. Yeah, okay.
No.
But getting to
recording.
The
Recording.
Because getting to the recording part of the song, I really do want to touch on this, because that to me is really where the magic came alive, and in a very unexpected way. Specifically for me. So this was actually the last song that I recorded before I lost my voice.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't, for people who don't know, I hadn't, up until this point, I hadn't performed in almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I had an ulcer on my vocal fold, which, acid reflux is a biatch. And so I lost pretty much a lot of my capacity for tone, for range, pitch, like things that would just be so easy for me became extremely hard. And so I was trying to push through and finish the gigs that I had for the last month of that. I had canceled my entire summer schedule, and I knew I wasn't going to be singing for the foreseeable future. And so that was weighing on me extremely hard. And so I knew we had this song we wanted to record. And also, this was Emma's first time working with Austin Bello, who, for a lot of us in the DMV, have had the honor of working with Austin. And he's an incredible producer and songwriter and creative. And so I was so happy that Emma and I got the chance to collaborate for the first time working with him. So if for anybody who's heard my music, if you listen to All the Cards, if you listen to Cherry, those songs are both produced by Austin. So for us to be able to get into the studio, and I really wanted Emma to see how Austin worked, because when I work with Austin, I'm just in awe of the way he does things. But we also work under that similar mindset of, what is the song telling us to do? How can we just make the song better? What are we married to? What are we open to changing? But I'll let Emma kind of talk about her experience with that too. But I just wanted to kind of highlight how there was just an unexpected beauty that kind of happened through my struggle, because at that time, my voice had gotten extremely raspy. It was just
jazzy.
Okay, she calls it jaspy. She calls it jaspy. Lord have mercy.
Not jaspy. Yeah, what?
Jazzy and raspy. Jaspy.
Oh,
hey, we just made a new word for the dictionary.
What's that?
Thank you. You're welcome. Webster's, pay me. So my voice was very raspy at the time, and I noticed that it was deteriorating fast. And the crazy thing was, that same day that we recorded, I had a gig, and that was actually the very last gig that I had performed publicly before I took
sabbatical.
Yeah, sabbatical, and I'm kind of still in that sabbatical in some sense. But I'm slowly making my return, which is a blessing in itself. But I just remember my voice being raspy in the booth was exactly what that song needed. Because the way what my verse describes, kind of a breaking through, if you will, where we've been so stuck in our own trauma for so long, and we're finally starting to, like, you're not quite out of it yet, but you're seeing the light. And for me, I think we talked about this just privately. We were talking about how the previous year was, the year of the snake. It was the year of shedding. It was the year of, for anybody who knows kind of how a snake sheds skin, it's a very tough process. And so a lot of times when snakes have to shed skin, or any animal has to shed skin, you have to rub up against something rough. So sometimes you'll see snakes rubbing up against rocks and twigs and those kind of things to loosen the skin. So, finally you get an animal that is, the coat is shinier, the animal is in most times bigger, stronger. But in this case, for me, it was extremely difficult, because I had been so used to being a one-take wonder. I've been so used to stepping in a booth, knowing exactly what I'm going to sing, hitting it on the first take, because I believe in the studio, time is money. And, you know, you got to get these takes as soon as you can get them. And the fact that there were points I couldn't even get through a verse. Like, I was struggling to even just get through a verse because I couldn't breathe. My throat was sore. It was on fire. But then we listened back to the record, and I say to myself, like, wow, I'm never going to be able to sing it like that. But it's what the song needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. Again, I never really asked you kind of what that experience was like for you, because I was in a world of hurt at the time.
Right.
I was feeling just like so embarrassed in that time. Like I didn't measure up. And that's actually how we got Emma to record the version where it's just you.
Yeah.
Because I said, if I can't make it through the session, you should at least have a version where it's you singing the whole thing. So that's kind of how we even got to the version that is currently out now, where it's just her singing herself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like I said, I went in and I was giving it my absolute best effort that I could. And there were so many times that I just said to myself, like, man, I swear if I had a full voice, I would like wreck this. I would wreck this chorus. I would wreck this verse. But I also look back at that time and just kind of hearing the vulnerability and the breaks in my voice and the raspiness. It served the record. So that was one of those moments that, you know, part of the recording process that was extremely hard for me. And that whole day was hard. That whole day, that was one of those examples I'm talking about. That entire day was difficult because I was kind of saying goodbye for a while to recording. I was saying goodbye for a while for performing in public, and that's just what I love to do. I just really love performing, and the fact that I knew for my long-term health I just couldn't do it anymore at that point. That was the worthiness test. Yeah. You know, that was the self-worth test, because I knew I was going to be entering this new time of like an identity crisis. Like, who am I now?
It's interesting because, so from my perspective, the day, like, because it was a 2-day recording session, and already I was feeling out of my comfort zone collaborating with you. And then we walked in and it was a whole other person that I'd never met before that we were collaborating with. So it's like, hello, new lover who I've never met, right? Vulnerable is what I mean. And he'd already written the music, which was, again, completely out of my comfort zone, because my producer that I usually work with, Flightboy Music, he and I co-produce all of the music together. So I'm very invested in that process. And maybe that's my control freakishness, I don't know. But being able to, well, I was kind of forced to take my foot off of the gas pedal of control and really let go and let God, right? And that was really uncomfortable for me. Really uncomfortable. I mean, it works, obviously, and the song's great. But for me, it was out of what I was expecting, I think. So on that side, I was feeling off kilter. Add to that, you know, in my personal life, at the point that we recorded this song, the night before, my husband and I had some pretty difficult conversations, predominantly around family things, namely, like, at that point in my life, my mother and I hadn't talked for over a year, and again, that kind of speaks to the meaning of the song. So I was feeling all kinds of upside down and inside out when it comes to feeling worthy of my mother's love and worthy of trusting somebody like my husband to work through this with. It was just really difficult and vulnerable and scary. And, that kind of feeds into what you were just talking about when it comes to, how do I put this? When it comes to showing up vocally, when it comes to feeding the song as opposed to feeding ego a little bit. And being okay with it not being a typical process or a typical version of myself.
Being the way you're accustomed to.
Right.
Yeah.
But then you bring in, that whole breaking up with identity, right? And that ties into, again, ironically, my husband and I have often talked about what does happen if you stop singing. Mm-hmm. What does happen if you lose your voice? What does happen? And so that lays another dimension to the whole idea of what does it mean to be worthy of love. Because, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, but for me, I have tied so much of my identity to being a singer-songwriter that I haven't really, up until recently, given myself permission to be more than that.
Yeah, that's real.
So
that was me a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember having this conversation before I even knew that my husband wanted to get married. To be clear, I didn't know until he proposed that he wanted to get married. I had no idea.
Surprise.
Seriously. But when it comes to, he used to ask me all the time, okay, so who are you outside of Emma G? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got nothing.
I am
This
me.
is who I am.
Right.
And he's like, no, you are so much more than that. You just haven't realized it yet. And so that kind of added on another layer to the song for me yet again, as I'm in the studio with two people that I never collaborated with before, one of whom I haven't even met yet. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to sing about this vulnerable period of my life. And I'm trying to, in my head, figure out who I actually am in the world, let alone in the studio. It just kind of kept piling on. And therefore, as I'm performing the song, it's, I think, one of the most non-typical versions of my voice that I have let myself be okay with.
Listen, for the record, I never told you this. I never said this, but I was in awe watching you work, watching you record, because the way that you were picking out harmonies, and we would say like, hey, sing it this way or sing it with this line, and you would just nail it. And it was like you were just checking things off the box. And as again, I've been so blessed to work with so many amazing vocalists and so many amazing songwriters and recording artists. Mm. But again, because when we did Dig Deep, I don't think we really got that chance, because we're running in, we were singing our verses, and then
putting our mouths back on.
Right, going, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was very much like, hurry up, record, do your thing, and then get out. And this one, I was able to really just sit back and just watch you work, and just watch you figure it out. Because I'm very scientific in that way when it comes to recording. Mm. Like we've listened to millions of songs across our lifetime, and we've seen what makes a hit, but then also what makes something that is going to emote. Mm-hmm. So the way that we can bend and shape our voice in a way to do that, it takes a lot of work that a lot of people sometimes don't realize. And so for me to actually sit back and not always be the one singing, but to listen to finally truly listen and work and watch another singer work, that was just so amazing to see. So I just wanted to, like, I never told you that, but it was just like man, just watching you work that day, because the way that we've done this was, it was a 2-day songwriting. It was a 2-day recording process. The first day we primarily just focused on writing the song, making sure the structure was the way we wanted, making sure the lyrics kind of matched up, strengthening the song, strengthening the record. And then we left with a demo that day that we both went home, listened to, just so we could prepare for recording the next day. And then we just spent the whole day that day recording. And so because of how I was feeling vocally, I was like, okay, let Emma go first. Let her knock out all her stuff. Yeah. And then that'll give me time to get where I need to be. And then, also because I had to go then sing a show, do an 1.5-hour show right after that. But I truly just admired just watching you in that process, because again, it is who you are. The way you attack
Control
life.
Freak.
Well, yeah. I was still okay. Don't say yes.
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, in the sense of, because I've watched you over time attack life in so many different ways, and the way that I see you just be so intentional about what you want and what you go after and the things that you want to release to the world, and just the method that you do it in is something that I just highly respect. And so seeing you do almost kind of work with that same general mentality, which is a way that I work when it comes to recording.
Are you calling me militant?
Yes. In a good way.
No,
in a good way. In a good way.
You.
But I really did appreciate watching you, work as a recording artist and not just as an artist. I really did enjoy watching you work through that process.
Likewise. And I think that comes from, the 10,000 hour rule. We've been doing this for a long time, and we love what we do and we're passionate about what we do. And especially when the meaning behind a song drives you, we talk all the time about, know your why. And, what is it that actually wakes you up in the morning?
Yeah.
What gives you, what brings joy to your life? What brings you energy? When a song has that kind of depth, I think that can really help fuel that militant approach. Anyways, February 20th. That's when it drops.
That's when it drops.
I'm really excited for the song.
It's a month of love.
Black history.
It's a month of Black history. Being proud of who we are.
Yes.
Being proud
of
just what we've overcome. And
a month of recognizing love in all of its facets, recognizing that we are stronger together,
yes.
Recognizing
Preach.
that love to me is not just about romance and being with your partner, although if that's your thing, then great. I know that I'll be celebrating that, but I got engaged on Valentine's Day. But really recognizing love is about feeding your inner joy and feeding your inner child and giving love to your community and your social group and those who maybe need a little bit more love.
And I would add to that, because what you just said in terms of on a personal level, it does mean something. And I would also add to that, being surrounded by people who don't just tolerate you, but celebrate you.
Right, but don't yuck your yum.
Being around people who don't yuck your yum. But just also, too, I think it's commingled. That while, yes, we ultimately should be doing the things to give ourselves the grace and the love to understand we are worthy and no one else should dictate that.
Mm-mm.
But it does also have it has weight and it has meaning when the people who are around you, when the people who are in your circle are the people who really amplify that.
Sure.
You know, the people who are the ones who are cheering for you in the rooms where no one's cheering for you. People who are speaking up for you in the rooms where people may be questioning you or doubting you. The people who, you know, when you walk into the room, they light up when they see you. And it's not just, you're not just tolerated in that moment. People who actually respect you and respect your boundaries. That's all in that encompassing self-worthiness.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not just what we're told, but it's also what we allow.
Yeah.
And
I feel like you're referencing my song "Together We Rise" right now.
Yeah, look, but that's the theme. That's
Yes.
what everything comes to. I
Yeah.
think, again, it's just a beautiful way how there's so many songs and so many themes that can connect with this, and you know, just being another reminder that wherever someone is in a point in their life when they're listening to this song or they hear this song, I just hope it does something for them, you know, rather, you know,
because you're worthy.
You are worthy. You are worthy. You're
Of
worthy. You're worthy. You're worthy. You're
and
worthy.
you get some worthiness. And
Everybody's worthy of love.
And on that note, thank you. I'm excited for this. I'm excited for the release. I'm excited to show the world what co-opetition looks like. That's a U word.
It's about time.
I stole it.
It's about time.
Yes, sir.
It's finally coming, y'all. So February 20th, stay tuned. Emma G, Jarreau Williams, produced by the amazing Austin Bello. Worthy of Love is coming your way.
Peace.
Yeah.
I didn't stop.